I'm the founder and advisor at SustainMENA, an awareness-raising and advisory platform based in Amman, Jordan, and operating throughout the Middle East and North Africa region. Throughout my career over the past 17 years, I've approached the water, energy, food nexus from different angles. In my early days as a consultant, I worked on water, energy, and food issues somewhat separately at the project level. But in recent years, I've been more engaged on advancing the water, energy, food, and environment nexus from a policy perspective, most recently through a collaboration with FEMISE on a white paper looking at the water, energy, food, environment nexus in Jordan from a governance perspective. Jordan is actually known as one of the most water-stressed countries in the world, often ranking among the top 3 in that category. When it comes to energy, Jordan is primarily an energy importing nation, although the energy mix over the past 10 years in response to Jordan's national energy strategy has shifted further towards clean, indigenous energy sources, with almost 29% of electricity resources coming from clean energy, both being solar and wind. And of course, when it comes to food, Jordan as well is highly dependent on imports, but has a vibrant agricultural sector. And worth noting, of course, that a large percentage of Jordan's limited water resources goes towards the agriculture sector. And similarly, due to the different geographical locations of water supply and water demand, towards water pumping costs. And so these indicators give us a sense really just how interconnected water is to the food sector, and of course how interconnected water is to the energy sector, which underscores the importance and the strategic need for a more holistic planning and implementation of projects within these 3 sectors. So over the last 10 years, each of our key sectors, being water, energy, and food, have issued strategic plans for the coming years, many of them taking into account the need to recover the economy following COVID-19. In terms of an overarching policy framework, Jordan recently launched in 2022 its economic modernization vision, which contains provisions on sustainable resource management and green growth. Together, really, they highlight the need for turning towards green, sustainable practices as a means of achieving economic growth, namely attracting foreign direct investment and the creation of much needed jobs. As with many other countries in the world, some of the major challenges facing the Nexus approach is the existing institutional setup, which is basically built upon sectoral ministries for water, for energy, and for food. So the existence of these separate ministries tends to result into separate strategies, plans, regulations, and projects that are developed and implemented without necessarily considering the trade-offs or the synergies between and among these sectors. However, we have seen, at least in Jordan, some interesting developments in trying to develop a water energy nexus and working groups, which have been put in place to try and develop projects in a more holistic approach. We also see some leadership in Jordan in trying to introduce a green economy framework, as well as an advanced climate change policy and strategic framework, which has resulted in a pipeline of projects within the framework of the nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. Pleasure of contributing to the development of Jordan's economic modernization vision alongside my colleagues in these sectors, and we did put forward a recommendation for the establishment of the Water, Energy, Food and Environment Council, or a body that can facilitate the needed coordination and facilitation and assessment of trade-offs among these key vital sectors for the economy. And currently, government is in the process of formulating and fine-tuning the governance structure. And I believe the creation of such a council will be instrumental in driving important conversations around the coherence of the regulatory framework, the synergistic aspects within our policies and strategies, strategies, ensuring that strategies in different sectors complement one another and take into account the impacts and the trade-offs we often see between water and energy, water and food, and vice versa. And so having such a council in place can serve as a center of excellence, as a place that can facilitate conversations between decision makers, technical teams, the private sector, academia, on arriving at the most suitable policy options from a whole of economy and whole of government approach rather than a single sectoral perspective. Well, I believe it will help in articulating projects that are more sustainable, that are more attractive for global green and climate investments, and of course in the implementation of projects that can withstand future shocks, be it from potential climate change impacts, pandemics, or economic shocks or otherwise.